Alright, check this out. About to dismantle this 5.0 drivetrain from an Explorer. We're sticking it into an early Explorer. Thought I'd share a couple tricks. If you have one of these transmission jacks and you frequently use the same transmissions over and over, go ahead and make yourself a wooden jig like this to fit the pan. That way it's much easier to stabilize and pull transmissions. The other thing is, why not dedicate a shelf to drain pan? You put a funnel like this up above it, that way you get a drain pan, you can let it empty out, drain right into your pan, easier to process fluids. So, I'm gonna tear this 302 down for a rebuild. First thing I gotta do is get the 4R70 off of it. Then we'll start tearing it down. What can we tell about this by looking at it? Came out of a Explorer, a 97.5 or a 98 would be my guess. 97 probably, because it's got external EGR, which tells us that it's got P heads. It's got a metal fan and an oil cooler, which tells us it's a 96 or a 97 engine. And with the welded manifolds, exhaust manifolds were welded in 96 through 97.5. I'm going to go ahead and say this was a 97 engine because it has the 3-bar head gt40p with the external EGR. All right, now I'm going to tear this thing down all the way down to the rotating assembly so I can rebuild it with a rebuild kit and stick it into an old Explorer. Here we go. All right, step one, I'm gonna remove the fan so I can get more easily to the balancer and the crankshaft pulley so I can turn the engine over and unbolt the torque converter. First, I'm gonna remove the fan with the fan tool. Then I have a 1/2 inch, 5/8, 15/16, and a 9/16 out so that I can get the starter, the torque converter nuts, the bell housing bolts, and the scatter shield bolts. So stay tuned. Okay, I got the fan and the belt off, no problem. You can see the 96-97 oil cooler. You can see this engine also has return fuel, 2 fuel lines. Definitely a 97. 96 would not have had external EGR. It would only have GT40 heads, not P, and the EGR is internal. So this is definitely a 97 engine. I'm taking off the transmission here, get some of the bell housing bolts off. Wanted to show everybody a little rundown on the 4R70W. This is the digital transmission range sensor. Chevy guys call it a neutral safety switch. 96 through 97, and these were analog signal. 98 through 01, they actually sent a digital signal. So you can't mix them up, you can't mismatch them. Use one in place of the other. You have to stick with analog or digital. On this tranny, this plug has 3 additional wires going into the bulkhead connector because this has the 96-97 solenoid pack inside. We like to update these plugs and run the 98 through 01 solenoid packs in these automatics. 4R70W from 96 through 01 Explorer 5.0. This transmission will be used in another project because our build here will be a stick M50D R2. It's going to be pretty cool. Okay, next I'm going to remove the starter, torque converter, and then eventually dismount the transmission from the engine. These shift cables on the Explorers and the Rangers are adjustable. If you get in here, this, take out this white plastic adapter locker. This sucker locks your cable in place, and you can adjust the distance of the shift cable in relationship to the shifter arm. And this is done with the column shifter in the truck in neutral, and the transmission also in neutral, which would be park, reverse, neutral. So in that position, you come in here, lock this back down, should be adjusted, your column shifter. Okay, I disconnected the wiring from the transmission. This oxygen sensor, the shift cable. I've removed torque converter access panel and the starter. With the starter removed, you can get right in there, get the torque converter nuts. You can see the first one exposed. There's 4. So I've got my 15/16 with my ratchet on the crank, ready to go clockwise. And then I can get in here with my 9/16 and remove the torque converter nut. One, turn it over. So as I was saying, zip this off. 2 out of 4. Turn it over. Watch the next one come around. There she is. Zip that one off. 3. Turn her over. Number 4. Now the converter is unseated from the flex plate. Hold the spark plugs. Make it easier to turn it over. And oil is coming out of cylinder 8. And then I notice also cylinder 4. So you know what that means, boys and girls. It was leaned on its side at one point, no big deal. Crankcase oil on top of the pistons. So I've got the transmission well supported. The engine is well supported. And on the hoist, took a little bit of persuasion, flathead, get over the alignment dowels, but not too much effort. And I got her off. She comes right back. Oh, look at that baby. Ooh, I can definitely feel that with my fingernail. I bet that was leaking. Maybe not. Seal rides up here. That's just the hub machine. Okay. All right, we're in good shape. Divorced. I got this Harbor Freight furniture dolly. Make a simple little jig. Ready to accept the tranny for storage. Took a little bit of persuasion. Flathead. Get over the alignment dowels. But not too much effort. And I got her off. She comes right back. Oh, look at that baby. Ooh, I can definitely feel that with my fingernail. I bet that was leaking. Maybe not. Seal rides up here. That's just the hub machine. Okay. All right, we're in good shape. Divorced. Here's another shop tip. Gonna put your engine on your stand. Have a hard time hanging the mount assembly. Well, why not just use your scatter shield to line up your mount before you go messing with putting it on the block. Okay, 302 has been safely placed on the stand, ready to dismantle. So first we're going to start by taking off the front accessory brackets, oil cooler, coil tower, upper plenum. EGR line's already been dealt with. We'll get down to the fuel rail. I'll deal with the starter. The main wiring harness, it's been cut. Get this exhaust manifold off. We'll get down to the long block in no time. Driver side bracket, 3 bolts, 3/4 or 19mm, and then you got to get this AC line hold down off the alternator. That's a 1/2 inch. Once that's off, these 3 holes, 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3. There. Okay, now we're working on the passenger side bracket. First, you got to remove the tensioner, 2 10mm, and now you can get to the 9/16 or 14mm. There's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. and then the big 3/4 or 19 millimeter there, and the alternator bracket and pulley bracket comes off. Also had to get this heater hose out of the way off the water pump so you can get access to that bolt. All right, with the driver's side bracket off, those 4 bolts, I loosed the crank sensor. You can see the wire routing for the crank sensor goes behind the water pump hoses there. And notice a couple things. It's not a factory bolt. That's not a factory bolt. Somebody's done this water pump before. Those are not factory clamps. This bypass hose has also been replaced. It's got a 3-wire cam synchronizer, definitely 97. Okay, gonna keep going on the teardown. All right, got the oil cooler off, water pump off, thermostat off. So lucky for me, somebody had recently done this water pump timing cover, possibly because the bolts that go into the water jacket all came out easily for me. So now I'm gonna do all the timing cover bolts, get the crankshaft bolt and puller out. I'll pull this off. The front of the engine's pretty much done. Got to address this wiring harness still and the training lines. Get that hanger, which will drop the starter. Then I'll be moving on to the top of the engine. Get all that done. I'll be ready to pull the intake and heads. So far, so good. Okay, so taking the starter harness off. These wiring supports connect the front of the timing cover studs here, here, and then on the engine mounts, studs here and here, which are a pain in the butt. But that's the main starter harness on a 5.0. And then something to note, this is the main drivetrain ground directly from the battery negative terminal. Lots of people do a 5.0 conversion in a Ranger and they forget to add this main ground wire for the drivetrain. Very important to have a couple of good grounds. Most of our Ranger-based trucks up to 2004 or 5 or so have 2 coolant temperature sensors, one for the computer, one for the dash. One for the dash is usually a red with white wire. On a 5.0 they're a single wire because it gets its ground through the engine. On a, say, a later model V6, this would have 2 wires because it cannot get its ground through the engine. This is the coolant temperature sensor for the computer. 2 wires. Very important that this is here. A lot of people do a 5.0 conversion and they get confused onto which is which and what does what. This drives the gauge in the dash. This drives the open loop, closed loop, PCM functions of the computer controlling the engine. Must have. Okay, it's time to take the upper intake off. Oh yeah, by the way, this is a Craigslist find. I paid $300 for this drivetrain. Running takeout dude and bought it, put in a Crown Vic project, never did it. So when I swoop in, pick them up. Okay, so back of the GT40 intake, vacuum feeds off this little line here. Feeds the fuel pressure regulator and also the EGR valve, which runs through to the EGR diaphragm, opens and closes the EGR valve. The DPFE has the sample hoses reference, and otherwise they go down to the EGR line. All right, and that's basically the vacuum, so disconnect that. Then this one goes to the brake booster, and then you have this PVC valve. It always comes unseated on the 302, and that goes to this vacuum T, which feeds off these on the side of the intake here, and then one all the way up that loops around to the front. Crazy. In 98, 99, they changed that. They got rid of the T. These T's always break. The PVC valves always come unseated. You can hear it right away. This fuel pressure regulator has seen better days. Okay, time to take the intake off. All right. Put the upper plenum out of the way. Can easily get the wiring harness the rest of the way off carefully, and the fuel rails and the heater jacket manifold off the block. Pull the cam synchronizer out, get this manifold off. We'll flip her over and get to the oil pan. Almost there. So far, looks pretty uniform, all 8 cylinders, nothing jumps out at me. The plugs also look good, they were recent. So it looks like somebody took care of their 302, which is good. Pride in ownership, we call it. All right, one other thing I noticed, this intake's likely been off before because they bypassed the throttle body heater, previous owner, and the surfaces are pretty clean, and it looked like aftermarket gaskets. So to show you a little trick I use for not breaking these fuel injector connectors, I don't even mess with this part of the connector here. I go right here in the middle. It might be hard to do with one hand, but basically with a little screwdriver in there, get them apart. Get them apart like this. In here with a little bit of pull. Set this up. They come right apart. Just like that. None of them are broken. Alright, now the wiring harness is out of the way. Unbroken, valuable 5.0 factory harness. I'm pull the lower intake. Now I could do the fuel rail. Those 4 bolts all the way around, get the fuel rail off. But I'm just gonna pull the whole lower intake, heater jacket, fuel rail, all of it, pull it off at one piece. First I'll vacuum up all this crap. Okay, I got the exhaust manifold off and the dipstick. A lot of people get rid of this piece. When you buy a running takeout like this, they often cut the exhaust right there. Keep this piece around, don't scrap it yet. It makes a great start for your new exhaust. We can see this 302 had the typical factory oil leaks from the valve cover and definitely from the dipstick. As I was saying, obviously the dipstick was leaking for some time. Valve covers were leaking. Rear main seal probably leaking. They usually are. But look at this. Pull the lower intake manifold off. And those are not factory gaskets. Plus, look at that lifter valley. That is clean. No sludge. Like, was this engine gone through recently? $300 special. We're gonna find out. So a valve cover is removed. This engine is extremely clean inside. I'm gonna take all the rocker arms and push rods out and get to the lifters. So I take the heads off, pull all the lifters out. Got my box prepared for the valve train so it stays in order, even though we're putting in a new cam, springs. But still, it's good practice. All right, got the lifters out, rocker arms off, push rods out. So I put them in the box. Okay, keep them nice. And then if you ever get one of these little lifter boxes, keep it around. It's nice when you buy new lifters. Look how clean this engine is for a $300 Craigslist running takeout. Somebody's been in here. Wonder how deep they went. Is it just the top end? We're gonna find out. Off. Got the heads off. Oil in the back cylinders. Looks like recent gaskets for sure. Not sure how deep they went. I don't know if the heads are rebuilt. I doubt it. Looks like they just resealed the top end. Score. Like a good builder will check the bore. Flip it over, take the oil pan off, pull the crank balancer, pull the cam synchronizer finally, pull the oil pan off, have a look at the bottom end, remove the rotating assembly, and then we'll start the rebuild. Alright, continuing to rip this apart. Cam synchronizer was not only destroyed, worst one I've seen, but it was stuck in the block. So PB blaster for a day or two, smack it on the sides with a brass hammer, break the seal, eventually started rotating it, came right out. I bet this sucker was noisy, huh? Yeah, that would sound good under your hood, huh? Have you chasing some noises for a while? It's your camshaft synchronizer, folks. They just don't last 200, 300,000 miles. Alright, so now that that's out, we pull the crank, and we're going to get down to the rotating assembly. I spun it over quite a few times. There's oil on top of the pistons, which makes me think that this was probably in a rollover, which would explain maybe the broken cam synchronizer and the oil on the pistons. Man, she looks good. Okay, I got the crank dampener off and the last timing cover bolt, that one, and then you got 2 1/2-inch that run up in from the oil pan vertically up into the timing cover, and then the timing cover has locating dowels that can be very difficult to get it off in the truck because it has to come forward and out, even though it's got a lip that rides in the oil pan. You think we might have had a front main seal leak on this 302? I think this sucker was high miles, which is why it got a top end recently. So curious to get into the rotating assembly and find out. All right, it looks good. So that's probably just a botched timing cover repair, right? I see, looks like aftermarket gaskets, blue, leaking coolant there. We gotta be doing a better job, people. So let's look at this crank. Let's see if it's got a ridge. No, there's no ridge. So you don't need a safety seal on that sucker. Should be good. Clean that up. All right, we got the oil pan off. Nice thing about the 96, 97 aluminum, dissipates heat better. Won't matter for us. It's going into a TTB truck, so I'm going to use a dual sump oil pan from a Mustang Fox body. So you can see it's milky on the pickup screen. Maybe it mixed when it's upside down. See any looseness in connecting rods? That's good. Everything looks pretty good so far. Not the perfect factory timing chain, factory oil pan gasket, although a little more silicone than I'm used to seeing in the corners. 96 was a long time ago. I'm sure that was leaking. Alright. Now with the oil pan off, the gasket removed, makes it easier. I can finally get the timing cover off, and then we'll unbolt the rotating assembly. I'll clean all this up, get a box ready for the pistons, connecting rods and all this. clean, 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 and more clean. Remove the camshaft, timing cover, and timing chain. Timing cover peeled right off. Timing chain set up. Cam retainer. Now I can pull the camshaft out easily. Cranks it out, looks good. That's the locating dowel on the timing cover I was talking about. That's why it's so hard to get it out in the truck. Okay, got all the pistons out, connecting rods. As you can see, stamped all cylinders, top and bottom. Nice. No scoring or unusual wear on the crank. Everything looks fantastic. Rotating assembly. Rotates super smooth. Just as it should. This is a good builder, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take the bearing caps off, main bearings out, push the rear main seal off. So we've got a block ready to be cleaned, honed, and assembled. Okay, got the bearing caps off. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they have an arrow pointing forward. Once again, what are you barking at? Hey, relax. Somebody here? I doubt it. Nice. Good old 302. Nice. Crankshaft is out. She's got some miles on her. Man, she's in good shape. Those bearings are worn. You can see when it goes from shiny to flat to bare metal, your bearings are worn.